Hello, I'm Steph. I'm here from Wokingham Borough Libraries, and I'm here with author Harry Dunn, who is the author of the Jack Barclay thriller series. Hi, Harry. Thanks for having a chat with me. Can you tell me a bit about your work and a bit about how you go into writing a book and planning it out, and how did you come by Jack Barclay?
Right. Well, hi, Steph, and thanks for inviting me along today. Well, Jack Barclay goes back, the thought entered my head way back when I was a teenager. And I'd come down to London from Aberdeen on the Flying Scotsman, steam, back in the day, just to have a look around London. And I was just obviously coming from Aberdeen and down to the big city. There was a lot to see, a lot to do. One day I was walking up Park Lane, and I walked past the Grosvenor Hotel, and I came to a huge car showroom which had Bentleys and Rolls Royces in it. And I'd never seen so many Bentleys and Rolls Royces in one place in my life. And I looked up, and the name of the person who owned the franchise was Jack Barclay. And that name, just all those years ago, 50 years ago, stuck in my mind. And that's where the name of Jack Barclay came from, and hence London Private Eye, Jack Barclay.
Oh, wow.
And I believe Jack Barclay is still there today. But,
So if we went on a tour of London, we'd be able to find him.
Exactly. And I still can't afford a Bentley.
Well, you've got 4 books out at the moment. No,
yes.
Yeah. 4?
Three, yeah.
3.
Well, you're right. I've got 3 full-length novels and a short story. The short story is interesting, Steph, because it's an introduction to Jack Barclay. It's free to download on Amazon. And it's a short story. It takes about 20 minutes to read. And it's called One Night in Andalusia. It's based on a true story. A lot of my ideas for my books come from real life dramas that happen. Obviously, I change things around, change names, obviously. But One Night in Andalusia takes as one dramatic evening in Puerto Banús. And it's a free introduction to the reader, and he or she can meet Jack Barclay. And if they like the story, and I've had a lot of lovely feedback about it, they can then go on, if they wish, to read any of the full-length thrillers. Yeah.
Well, I mean, not that we need too much of an introduction to Jack Barclay, because you've had quite a lot of global success with him, really, haven't you?
Yes, I get a lot of feedback from women and who find Jack, and I never describe him completely. The reader has to make up his or her mind what he looks like. But he's vaguely in his mid to late 30s, quite rugged, attractive to women, as I said, a determined guy, a bit rough on the outside, but heart of gold. He works out of London, and my stories take the reader all over the world, really. And to do that, obviously, I have to research and make it sure everything is accurate. But Jack gets around quite a bit, and each book, although Jack features in each one of them, the stories, each book is a standalone. You could read them in any order at all, because they're totally different stories.
Yeah, but you've also been quite high on the best readers lists, haven't you?
Yes, the second one, Forever Evil, went to #1 in Canada and Australia, and #3 in the UK. And similarly, my latest thriller, Death Run, went to, I think, #2 in Canada, #2 in Australia, and I think it was in the top 10 in the UK. So I have a nice audience in Australia, Canada, particularly, and it's lovely to see that. And I do get a lot of views and feedback from people in those countries. I think they enjoy reading about something that takes place, and sometimes in London and Europe, and many of the stories actually are spread around different places, but I do find that Canadians, Australians have a soft spot for the UK and London, and probably enjoy reading about that, and that helps a lot.
Yeah, there is a nostalgia to London, isn't there? Everybody
Yes.
knows London,
Yes.
whether they've visited or whether they've just seen it. So
it's quite funny actually, Steph, because when I went to Wokingham Library as I started out my writing career to meet a crime author. Her name's Margaret Murphy. She lives up in the Wirral, and I said, "Could I have a few minutes?" She said, "Yes, of course." And she asked me if I was writing. I said, "Yes, first thriller, Smile of the Viper. I've written about 10,000 words." And she said, "Where is it set?" And I said, "Los Angeles." And she asked me, how well do you know Los Angeles? I said, "Well, not very well at all. I just passed through." She says, "Well, don't do it. Write about somewhere that you know." So LA became London. It was difficult to change 10,000 words from LA to London, but I did it. And it was the best advice that I'd been given, because if you don't know a city, you're going to make a mistake and it'll get spotted.
So that's your top tip for any writers out there watching this, is write about where you know.
Yeah, and LA came because I spent many years on the road, and I read a lot of crime books, and my genre was all usually crime, and most of them was set in LA and by American writers, Michael Connolly, Elmore Leonard, Robert Crace, wonderful writers, and most of their stories took place, and George Pelecanos, most of those stories take place in LA. So that's how my mind worked at the time.
Do you feel like when you write the Jack Barclays, that you're sort of emulating your favorite author's style? Like you mentioned some of them there, or taken any, like?
Yeah, I try not to. I mean, I never copy, but obviously you become influenced by these writers and you pick up ideas from them. And I don't do police procedurals because you have to be extremely accurate and up to date with what's happening in that world, with forensics and in DNA and all sorts of things they employ nowadays. And you have to be up to the minute with it, otherwise that will get spotted. So my choice was to create Jack Barclay, the private investigator. So I'm not quite as tied down to procedures. In fact, I'm not tied down at all. Jack's his own man. But yes, I was influenced by some of those writers, and but I did meet a lady called Judy Hodgetts, who took me under her wing, and she lived in Wokingham at the time, and she was wonderful to me, and she's a published author, and she really taught me how to write novels. I thought I knew how to do it, but she'd been through it all, and she very kindly gave up her time to help me, and in fact she's my editor. She's edited all my thrillers for me. And if someone's setting out to write and they can meet someone like that, they're very fortunate, as I was.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. So just out of pure interest, when can we expect Jack Barclay's fourth adventure?
Well, I've done an outline, and I'm trying to make it quite different from the ones I've written so far, and I don't want to give too much away. And of course, it may change because Jack Barclay's been invented, but I invent new characters obviously for every thriller, and it's the characters that take me along. And on a very good writing day, those characters will help me greatly to write perhaps 3,000 or 4,000 words. That would be a very good day. Normally it's maybe 1,000 or 1,500 words. But if the characters take over, and I can dream up some nice, juicy, interesting characters, let them take over the story. On a good day, they'll take me along and they'll guide me. I know what the beginning is going to be, and I usually know what the end is going to be. It's that bit in the middle, and I let it just happen. And I get more fun and enjoyment out of writing that way. Some people really do know what the whole story is going to be before they set out. I don't. So I surprise myself.
You enjoy the journey.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Do you, because you've worked for the BBC, so,
Yes, I do.
and you've worked with people such as Delia Smith, Keith Floyd, and Ken Hom,
Yes.
with their books and going on tour with them, and you must have worked with loads of people. Do you ever find that you've sort of put like a little bit of the people you've worked with into
Yes.
your
Well,
stories?
yes, unconsciously, I probably do. Delia Smith, a lovely lady, great to. 'Cause back in the day, there were no mobile phones, and you
No.
were out on the road with people, and there was no escape. They couldn't escape from me, really. And we used to travel around the television stations, radio stations, bookshops to promote their cookery books. But the BBC suddenly realised there was a massive amount of money to be made out of these TV chefs. And that's how, really, why I was usually with a TV chef, but not solely then. But yes, traveling around with Keith was always interesting. Often it was very late nights and very early mornings. And I remember one time up in the northeast, we'd had a particularly good evening, and Keith liked his cocktails. And we had to be on North Shields Fish Market at 5:30 in the morning to film Keith on the fish market. And bless him, he was there absolutely on time. And we just got his raincoat out of the cleaners. And it was beautiful. And this fish merchant threw this huge cod at him, and he caught it, this brand new, cleaned up raincoat. So that was some of the funny things that happened. But touring with these people was always interesting. But there's a lot of downtime. I had to wait, often waiting for them. They were waiting also to be interviewed, for things to be set up, television interviews. Things don't always happen as the exact time you think they're going to. So often I was on my own. And in the evenings, sometimes they wanted to go off and do their own thing, or go to the room. So I began reading, and that's when I began reading a lot of crime books.
Yeah.
And it's probably as well, because there's only so many gin and tonics you can drink in an evening. So it's probably quite a good thing that I took up reading. But it was a really interesting time in my life. Delia Smith, back in the day, she looked like Mary Quant. I don't remember Mary Quant. And she was a lovely woman to travel with, as was Keith. And in the early days, the crowds could be quite thin. But as the popularity grew and they became real celebrities, it was quite daunting to walk into a shop and find the number of people just waiting for them. But it was good fun.
Do you think that prepared you for being an author and doing book launches?
It helped me a lot, yeah. Because I'd seen that side of the business. Never for a minute did I ever think I'd be on the other side of the book signing table, signing books. I never thought that for a minute. I didn't start writing till I was about 60 when I retired, because I never had time.
No.
And it was when I had time, and I'd started off the first novel years before, and just like many others, put it in a drawer and forgotten about it. Picked it out, and I just started writing again. And all those experiences I had definitely helped. Yes,
that's brilliant. And you launch your books at Wokingham Library, don't you?
I do.
Certainly. Is it just? Have you launched all three there?
Well, the first one I launched an independent bookshop in Wokingham. They've gone now, unfortunately, as many small bookshops have. And after that, I decided I really wanted to show my support for libraries. And my last two thrillers have both been launched successfully. We had with Heather at Wokingham Library, lovely attendances on a Monday evening with a few little glasses of wine and nibbles thrown in. And most enjoyable, and it's great to support the libraries. You got to use them or you lose them.
Yeah, use them or lose them. And so hopefully we'll be seeing you for Jack Barclay's fourth adventure.
I very much hope so. Yes. I hope.
Well, fingers crossed. You have to get writing on that one.
Keep my head down, Steph. Keep writing.
Yeah. You've got plenty of time at the moment, Harry.
I know. There's no excuse, is there?
Not really. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to wrap it up now because we've had a good chat, and I don't want to keep you from the other things you've got going on today. But thank you very much for coming and agreeing to talk to me. It's been wonderful, and thank you so much for your support of the libraries.
It's my pleasure, Steph. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
No problem. It was lovely to have you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.